We are live. This is Coach Arnie, and it's been a few weeks. I'm not sure, but I think that the last time I was here, I was getting ready to head to the Grand Canyon. I'm not sure. Maybe Cece will send me a note on that. I'm not sure if I talked about it, but I had a crazy adventure at the Grand Canyon. I did a rim to rim to rim. But this is the Health, Love, and Life Adventure Show with me, Arnie Fonseca Jr., and we like to talk about anything to do with health, love, and the adventures of our lives, because that's what really life is all about. It's about adventures. And actually, I had something I jotted down on a note. I was going crazy because I couldn't find it, but came to me. I was listening to my new book today. But a big part of life is, live until you die. And live means live. Live doesn't mean exist. Live doesn't mean, have a pulse. It means live. So many people are worried about everything that they don't live. They're worried about their kids, their families, their relationships, their job. And so you're not living, you're existing, and you're not happy. So we want you to live your life. We want you to be adventurous to the level that you can handle. And as you learn to handle that level, let's go a little higher. And maybe someday you'll do what I did and take off to the Grand Canyon in the middle of the night and go to the North Rim with 2 feet of snow. And, just craziness happens. Stuff happens. I dealt with an injury. I dealt with a fall. I dealt with stuff that you can only do when you do something crazy and adventurous. And now I'm here telling stories about it and planning my next one. That's, to me, that's living. Because now when I share with people, I don't talk about just random stuff. I can't remember the term for it. It's a professional term, psychological term for it. Many people are confident in what they talk about. They talk about, gardening, or they talk about hiking, or they talk about cooking, or they talk about coaching or sports. But not very many people are competent in that because they haven't done it. They just love reading about it and watching stuff about it. I'm not a foodie, but I'll sit there and watch the cooking channel, the Food Network. That's the only thing I watch on TV, if I ever watch, because I don't watch TV. But I'll sit there and watch 3 hours straight of the Diner Guy and all these cooking shows. And my wife looks at me like I'm crazy because she knows I don't care anything. I don't care about cooking, but I can talk to you about crazy foods and things that I saw. But I'm confident about that, but I'm not competent to cook. So when somebody talks to me about the Grand Canyon and they've never been down there in the middle of the night, okay, they can watch YouTube videos all day long. But until you're down there and experience that, you're not competent. See, you're not competent, because I want you to live life. I want you to get into relationships so that you can learn from them and grow from them. I've learned, a good friend of mine, we've been discussing this week about judgment, because to me, judgment is poison. And we've come up with a phrase. We are fruit inspectors. We just look at the fruit. If somebody is doing something and they're learning and growing, they're producing fruit. But when you stop, you're dying. There's not really much of a transition. You either are growing or you're dying. It's just growth or dying. That's pretty much it. So, which is why, some people might have done what I did and came out of there and go, I'm going to give up. I can't do this anymore. I'm too old. I'm too this. And my brain was already going the other way. It's like, okay, all right, let's figure out what happened. Let's make that better. And what are the positive things that came out of this? What'd you learn? And what did you accomplish? Which I did. One of my biggest goals was to do the North Rim in the snow, and I did it. Do I have to do that again? No. Would I? Sure. I would. Most people, when I told them, you did that? I mean, I had experienced runners better than I am tell me, wow, you did that at night? I said, yeah. It's like, whoa, that's really amazing. That made me feel good. I was willing to do something that they weren't willing to do. See, and I get to talk about it. And let me tell you why I get to talk about it. Because that night, I was the only one there. I was the only one there. So on that night, I owned it. And that's what an adventure is all about. And let's kind of swerve into our topic about change tonight. And this is a big topic for me, and it came about I think after I got back, about changing our mind and change in general. Because to me, change is powerful, but changing your mind, I mean, I get accused of not being focused all the time and this and that. But let me just make a statement here, or through a question. Is changing your mind good or bad? It's a rhetorical question. Because it's good. Now, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me at all. Because I hear it all the time, and I'm sure you hear it all the time. Get focused. Pick something. Know your niche. Whatever. There's only, and I wrote a couple notes here. One of the things I have, and I truly feel that I can change my mind on everything except two things: my values and my principles. When I observe people, especially let's say in politics, that change their mind, I don't really care. But when I see them changing their principles and their values, that's a red flag. Because they're not grounded in anything. In my world, I have a spiritual alignment of God, then Arnie, then my wife, then my family. So if you don't have a value system, and you don't have that value system based in principles, then you're not grounded. Now, if you're young and you're still trying to discover all, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big believer that people in their 20s should feel like that life is like a buffet, and they need to go out and sample things. How are you going to know what you want and don't want? That's why, this is kind of Cece's area, but I've done a lot of coaching in the relationship world. But that's why I'm a big fan of dating. How do you know what you don't want? How do you know what you want? You got to date. And a lot of people don't like doing that. But, in my day, you had to meet someone the old-fashioned way. We didn't have any video stuff. You just had to go out and meet them, whether it's through a friend or a ball game or a concert or a bar or whatever. Didn't matter. I've met people at baseball games, and back in the day, I've met people when I was on vacation. Jeez, and then you get to know them, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I met my wife through a friend's, and it never was intended to be that, and didn't even start out that way that night, but it ended up that way, and it became a process, and then here we are 35 years later. So, but that was a process versus swipe right or swipe left, which is fine too if you are learning and growing from the process. So changing your mind is good. And people have used the term, they've said statements like, those who can't, I love this quote from George Bernard Shaw. I'm not a big fan of his, but famous playwright of the last 150 years. Those who can't change their minds can't change anything. And there's a lot of truth in that. I would call them dogmatic. They are set in their ways. They're not going to move. And that's great if they're set in a very principled, solid place. Nothing wrong with that. But if it's not, especially if they're complaining and blaming, they have no one to blame but themselves, because they have a closed mind. And it's interesting, and I've heard this my whole life. Well, I shouldn't say my whole life, because I really didn't create this new me, I guess, until after I had gotten married and had been coaching and teaching, and things just weren't going right. I just didn't feel right. But this is before the days of coaching. Even though I was a coach, it was athletic. This was the days before really, mindset training and all this other stuff was new. It was kind of underground. So I didn't feel right. Something was not right in my life. My alignment was off. And so when your body's alignment is off, you'll hurt. You'll be in pain. So when your life's alignment is off, you just won't feel right. And in many cases, you'll be in pain as well. So, because as I started to try to figure things out, I was accused of, people would say almost like changing your mind is like a dirty word. You can't say that. What's wrong with you? You're a teacher. You're this. You're supposed to be doing that. You said this. Now you're saying that. And like I said earlier, unless it's values or principles, well, I listened to somebody. I sat down. I went to a seminar. I read a book. I got information on it. I changed my mind. See? People used to, and still do, think those are dirty words. There's a lot of shame and guilt behind that. I remember my mom, God rest her soul, just one of my biggest cheerleaders on the planet. But when I changed my mind and went from being a teacher to a, God only knows what you would even call it, because I created the position. I created what I did, and she had no idea of understanding what I was doing. And she never, in the next, 20 years, she never forgave me. She loved me, but because she didn't understand it. She didn't understand how you could leave this to do that. It wasn't about the money to her. It wasn't about fulfillment or joy or living life. It was about, she was raised into depression. When you were raised in depression, a job was a big thing. It was a big thing. You don't leave a good job if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. There was no such, and this is even before the days of entrepreneur. There is no such thing as what I was doing. It's like, what are you doing? You can't quit being a teacher. No one does that. But I did. And I did really well. It didn't matter to her. It didn't matter, see. Um, so it was kind of other things that people. So there was some shame and guilt. I didn't accept it. I didn't like it. She's my mom. I didn't like it. No one wants to be shamed or felt or guilted into a decision, because it certainly wasn't going to change my mind about changing my mind. Some people might call that a flip-flopper. I mean, that's a political thing. And I don't have problems with in politics of flip-flopping. Part of debate is to get somebody to change their mind by presenting information, facts, real facts, not the nonsense you see on TV today, but real facts. And trying in debate, the idea is to get the other person to change their mind. That's what I try to do. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as they're not changing their values and their principles. So that's why, if somebody is open to changing your mind or their mind, that's a good thing. Now you can have a free-flowing conversation, because now both people are growing and learning about each other, their views, and before you know it, you might have some collaboration. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break here, and we will be right back with the Health, Love, and Life Show. We're back with the Health, Love, and Life Show, and we were talking about some of the phrases that people use to call us people that change our minds. Shame and guilt, flip-flopping, unfocused. Geez, heard that. Flakes. Never been called a flake, but that is a term for somebody that changes their mind. This is one that I've had to think about. Is you can't finish. It's like, why can't you finish that? Because sometimes you get to a point you go, I don't want to finish that. Your gut tells you it's time to pivot. It's time to move on. But again, this is all new ways of thinking. Back in the day, 60, 70 years ago, you finish. If you're on a farm and you got to plant the seed, plant the corn or the wheat, whatever it might be doing, you plant, finish it, get it done. So, but some of the things that I wrote down here about changing your mind is that not just because I'm person that changes his mind is because it takes courage. It takes courage to stand up to people in your own. And a lot of times it's people very close to you. Like I just said, my mom. I know I drive my wife crazy. But you know what? She may not, well, she remembers. But she was classic mind changer when she was younger. Classic. Doing stuff all the time that was different. Right out of the chute. And I don't want to just pigeonhole people here, but women, especially women that become moms and have families, they are more interested in security as well. So I have to address that. It's a real issue. But some guy, and we're not talking about a lot of people here. I want everybody to know it's less than 5% of the population that has crazy brains like me, that wants to do crazy things, that wants to change their mind. They can't make up their mind, can't stay focused. But to me, it takes courage because you're constantly moving towards something. You may not know what it is right off the bat, but how many things that we do in life, I mean, some do, they're lucky, right away. I mean, I did when I was 20, 19, 18 in college. I knew I was going to be a teacher and a coach. I was sharing that story with somebody the other day on a hike. And I said, I didn't have a great dad. God, he did the best he knew how. But I was surrounded by great coaches and teachers. And because of that, that's all I ever wanted to be. I mean, they saved me. They made me who I was. They gave me the opportunity. They gave me a shot. I was listening to another show 2 days ago, and it reminded me of when I was a freshman in high school, and the varsity football coach was my PE teacher. And he was watching us play this crazy game back in the day. If we were playing that today, they'd be thrown in jail. But I loved it. I was just a little guy, and I was out there just having a ball, day in, day out, week in, way out, because we played things for 2-3 weeks, and we got to play the same game in the afternoon. And I remember with the bigger guys, and I remember him calling me over one day and brought me in the office. And he said, well, I've been watching you out there in that field. He goes, I really like what I'm seeing. He goes, I want to give you a shot next year to play varsity football. And I went, holy smokes. I mean, I was scared. I was scared more because no one would ever believe this. Because, I was a kind of a little guy. I knew I could do it, but I had no idea. I mean, how it was going to happen. How was this going to happen? He didn't say I was going to be on the team. He said, give me a shot. And I was so, I guess the word would be scared. I didn't tell anybody, not even my parents. I told no one. I just worked as if I was already there, and worked and worked and worked and worked because I knew I was going to get a shot. I still remember riding my bike along, we had a canal to the field that very first morning that we were going to have to hit, which was going to make or break me. And I remember looking over there, I said, I'm going to be right there in a little bit. And that's going to be my chance. And I did really well. I did really well. So, but that was 47 years ago. 47 years ago. And I can still see that image. And because of that opportunity that somebody encouraged me, of course I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. Why wouldn't I? Until I didn't feel right. And then I changed my mind and started driving everybody crazy because I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I got married and I didn't know what I wanted to be. and I had kind of just made it up. And that's okay. You can make it up too. Thank God that people had the courage and the guts to change, or we wouldn't have Walt Disney. He was working for a newspaper. He was an editor of a newspaper. And he wasn't very good. But he wanted to be a cartoonist. And he wasn't very good. But he stuck with it. And then he just quit and became a cartoonist. Thank God. Right? Yeah. How about Einstein, who was told he was kind of dumb? And he was, I think he was like a patent clerk in an office. And he wanted to be a scientist. Thank God. He changed his mind. And that's just two of many, many stories. So let's take a couple minutes here and let's go over the change process. I've done it before, but let's review here. Because this is what slows, this is what not slows everything down. This is what stops changing your mind. This stops it right here. Because see, when you are in what I call the safe harbor, and I used to have it drawn up here, but I don't even have it drawn up right now. But you're in a safe place right now in your life. Maybe. I call it warm and cuddly and has a very distinct odor to it, if you know what I mean. Because it's yours. But something inside of you says you need to make a change, whether it's job, relationship, health. Something is either you're in the pain cave or whatever, usually pain. Pain is the fastest way to get you out of there, to get you moving. Or it's a tremendous joy, one or two. So you're in this safe place and it takes so much energy to change, to start, forget change, start the process. It's almost impossible. Like I said, less than 5%. Less than 5%. This is not easy because it's like an atomic bomb going on. It's like a rocket ship going off to the moon to want it to change, to start the change. And then after the start, it gets worse. You're thinking, Coach, what do you mean it gets worse? I thought starting was so hard. It is. It's brutally hard to change. So think of the people that are in a horrible job and they know they got to change, or they're in a terrible relationship. They know they got to change, or their health sucks and they know they got to change. Or they want to do something exciting in their life and they know they got to change. And they sit there 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 because they can't muster the energy to even start, to even Google or get a book or listen to an audio book or a seminar or a webinar or go talk to somebody. And so they do nothing. And they live in guilt and regret their entire life. And then some crazy person like me comes along and says, hey, let's go do the Grand Canyon. And go, oh, man, I can't do that. That's really crazy. That's nuts. Then you tell them stories. Man, but I was on the North Rim, and it was midnight, and there was snow. And they're going, oh, my God, this guy is insane. Because, see, all that excitement, all that life has been beaten out of them by not being willing to start. And then once you start, this is when it gets crazy, because then you launch yourself into chaos. I would say that this year, every year when we start, because we did a little show at the beginning of the year about going to the gym and all that stuff. And then with COVID, the gyms were, a lot of them weren't even open, and then you had to wear masks, and then you couldn't be, whatever. My gym doesn't do all that stuff, but But normally in a normal year, the gyms are jam-packed for about 3 months. And then whoop, the bottom falls out because of chaos. Everything hurts. I was talking to a lady the other day. She goes, Arnie, I don't understand. Everything hurts. I go, what are you doing? She was telling me all the things she's doing. I go, look. Because people think they have to be doing some kind of a high-level, high-tech workout to make their muscles sore. No, you just have to be moving. Do you realize that most people don't even move in this country? Forget exercise. That's a bonus. They don't move. So you start moving, cleaning, vacuuming, lifting things. I know people that have hurt themselves scrubbing floors and they go, oh, I'm falling apart. Yeah, because you're moving. Your muscles are sore. What was the preparation you did for that workout you just did there? You just did a 6-hour cleaning with no preparation. Good luck on not being sore after that. Chaos. So people do that in the gym, chaos. People do that on a hike, too much, chaos. People do that, whatever they do, chaos. You go into a dating situation, you're not ready for it at all, and you get chaos. So you took the chance, you went on a date, no preparation, chaos. I'm not doing that again. That was crazy. I'm not going back to that gym. It hurts. I'm not starting that diet. Oh my God, it was horrible. I can't cook like that. Chaos. But here's the key. For the few, the brave, the courageous, they can hang in there and go through the chaos. It takes about a month, maybe 2. You come out on the other side and things start to normalize a little bit. They normalize. And then you can start to put in the new behavior, the new food you're eating, the new, maybe you're going to the gym at a regular time. You've got your rhythm down, what time you're going to go. Clothes are ready to go. You've got your routine down. You've got your kids taken care of. You got your schedule down. You're feeling better. You're making a little bit of progress. Your relationship's better. You're dating now on a regular basis. You met somebody. You've got kind of a plan. You know what kind of questions to ask at your date. You know what to look for. You know what to not put up with. You're learning. You're growing. You've got a system now. So you can start installing these new behaviors into your system. So after about another month, this process takes about 90 days. Things become automatic. Things become automatic. You just do them. You just do them. You just do them. Most people never get there. Within the first couple of weeks, for sure, the first month, back to zero. It's too much. It's overwhelming. It's too much. Change takes courage. Changing your mind takes courage. Takes guts. So that's the change process. And you got to get to automatic at some point, guys. If you don't get to automatic, change will not happen. Okay? And I want you, a couple things here as we start to wind down a little bit. You got to own your change. If I make pivots, which I've done now in the last 6 months, I've made 3 pivots. Boom, boom, boom. Well, that's got to work. No, it didn't work. This one's going to work. No, it's not going to work. Pivot. 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 You don't get any gold medals by hanging in there and watching everything just crumble. Now, I don't mean changing your principles and your value. You can pivot within your specialty. Now, I don't want you to think, well, I'm going to go from being a doctor in medical school to a farmer, okay? Unless that's that's a little bit different. But if you're creating new verticals in your business. Hey, I'm going to try this. I've got this great idea. That's different. Especially if you're passionate. One of the guys that helps me a lot, he goes, Arnie, that's fine. He goes, are you excited about it? He always asks me that. Are you? And I go, I am. Good. Then do it. Are you excited about it? So change, to me, change, and I've mentioned this before, changing your mind is a sign of living. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign of growth. You know, remember I told you earlier about being a fruit inspector? I love seeing people do different things. I love seeing people producing fruit in their life. I love it. I get excited about people's new ideas. I don't get jealous about it. If anything, I'm thinking, how did you do that? That's pretty cool. Fruit. What are you doing? Are you producing fruit? If you're not producing fruit in your life, you're dying. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay because it means you're growing. Whether it's business, you know, maybe you're working at a place, maybe you want to start maybe you want to turn your hobby into a business, or you want to pick up one of these on home businesses. I don't care. Start a podcast, you know, promote, talk about, I used to love listening to Gary Vee, and he'd say, start a podcast and talk about Star Wars. I mean, if you're passionate about it, talk about making blackberry jam. If you're passionate about it, doesn't matter. If it makes you excited, you're going to attract other people that are excited. I was, again, crazy. We've got a few weeks of stuff here, but I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and Amy is on fire. We were talking about religion and faith, mainly faith. And I told him, I go, you know, because I've heard this before, you are going to, if you're on fire in your life, you are going to do two things. You're going to either attract somebody, or you're going to scare them away. And so as I got to know him better, I learned a lot about how he had been scaring people away in his life, as well as me. He had totally attracted me because I saw the fire in his eyes. And I first learned about this 13 years ago. I was at a meeting and I ran into this guy, very successful. And I'm in a group around this guy. We're just talking, you know, kind of like a breakout session. He picked me out from everybody. And he looked at me and he goes, point his eyes, right? Point his finger at me and looked me right in the eyes. He goes, whatever you have in those eyes, don't lose it. I'm like looking around going, wow, that's pretty cool. Because I was excited. Because look, I'm the kind of guy, if I'm not excited, I don't even hang around. I go looking for the fire. I'm gonna chase the fire. Get it? I don't just do things to do things, because I'm at the age now, I don't have time. I don't have time. So it says, changing your mind, to me, it says more good about you than bad. To me, my opinion, it says more good about you. Okay? Because to me, it tells me you're willing to listen. You have an open mind. You're willing to listen. That's a good thing. That means you're willing to grow and learn. And that's what I'm looking for. Isn't that what you're looking for? Whether it's a relationship, a business, somebody that's in your business, people you want to surround yourself with. Isn't that who you want to surround yourself with? Good grief, man. That's exciting. Do you want to surround yourself with people that don't listen, don't change their mind, are always the same every single day? Some people do. It's like an old pair of shoes. You always know how they're going to feel, but they're an old pair of shoes. But to me, it's not an adventurous life, is it? Nah. So to me, let me just finish with this. God's plan isn't always our plan. We are not talking, going back and forth on your values or your principles. We're talking about sometimes we have to be willing to change. Sometimes we have to be willing to understand that the door is open, but we may not be willing to step through it. Does that make sense? Because if it does, then you can change. If it doesn't, then you're going to struggle. So the key here is when we're talking about changing our mind, we're talking about what are you willing to do to take yourself to that next level. And as long as you're not compromising your principles or your values, then to me, everything's on the table. And that's what's going to give you the opportunity to have and live that adventurous life. All right. So, and one last thing here before we stop is I want you to think about something. When you look at things in life, start to look at them three-dimensionally versus just as they appear. Sometimes you have to turn them sideways. Sometimes you gotta get it on top and look down. Sometimes you gotta get underneath and look up. Sometimes you may have to turn it to see it a little bit differently. And maybe that might change your mind as well. All right, guys, this has been Coach Arnie. There's my information. Would love to hear from you as well. Anytime, call or text. And hopefully you will be doing some evaluating your life here this week. And love to hear from you and what you're doing. And don't forget to follow Cece on the GoingSoloMedia.com network and all the things that she's doing and all her great shows. Appreciate you guys. And I will see you next week. Take care.